My argument is not for that. My argument is that we should try our very best to treat people without regard to race, both in our personal lives and our public policy.
Let's see some clashing between this dude and the people of The View. Some people are about to clash on The View with this young man who holds himself together super well.
The first question that I should ask you to do is explain to folks what you mean by this. Arguments for a colorblind America. What do you mean when you say that?
So a lot of people equate colorblindness to I don't see race or to pretending not to see race. I think that's a big mistake. We all see race, right? And we're all capable of being racially biased, so we should all be self-aware to that possibility. My argument is not for that. My argument is that we should try our very best to treat people without regard to race, both in our personal lives and our public policy.
Of course.
And the reason I wrote this book, thank you. The reason I wrote this book is because in the past 10 years, it has become very popular to, in the name of anti-racism, teach a kind of philosophy to our children and in general that says your race is everything. Right? And I think that is the wrong way to fight racism, and that's why I wrote this book at this time.
Just point out that there is a reason for that. You know, when I went to school, getting any information about anyone's race was not taught. No history, there was no black history, none of those things were taught. And here in America, 100 years ago when I was a younger woman, that's how people saw you. That's how they judged you. So I think I don't want to say it's your youth, but I think you have a point, but I think you have to also take into consideration what people have lived through in order to understand why there has been such a pointing of very specific racial things, like women couldn't get into colleges. If you were a black person, there were a lot of colleges wouldn't accept you, trying to equal the playing field. I think that's what a lot of folks have been trying to do. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
I think that's your experience, and that's valid. You know, as a counterpoint, when I was in 5th grade, we all watched Roots together in public school.
Yeah.
So these are different experiences. I think it's also different generations. It's different parts of the country, right? We have very different cultures all living together in one country. So I'm not going to deny that, but I view this notion of a colorblind society similar to the idea of a peaceful society, which is to say it's an ideal, it's a North Star. And the point is not that we're ever going to get there, we're not going to touch it, but we have to know when we're going forward and when we're going backwards. And we're going backwards when we're doing woke kindergarten in San Francisco.
Check out Whoopi Goldberg when he's saying that about woke kindergarten. She looks, I'm not sure what she looks like. She looks like she's about to attack the guy. It's like she's saying, no, you didn't. But hold on, it's about to heat up. Right? But I just want us to pause real quick. He's saying, look, and I hope you caught the main point of what he's saying. We're growing up right now, we're saying racism is bad, but at the same time, we're saying your race is your everything. And this is so counter to the whole thing of equality. Because if you have people focus on the color of their skin, you're only inflating racism rather than teaching people to have good morals and good character. Come on, when I was in high school, I was friends with a bunch of black people. I was friends with Spanish people. But one thing I noticed is that there is different types of black people, just like there are different types of white people and different types of Asian people. You got people who are a little bit more hood and people that are a little bit more cultured, right? You got two different types of black people, and you could tell probably where they grew up. We had something called the Gifted program, and there's some black guys in that program and black girls, and they acted totally different than the people that were getting F's and D's and that were black people as well. It might be pretty clear that both of these people's upbringings were completely different. And that's not to say anything about racism. That's simply to say that these two groups of black individuals grew up completely differently, most likely. And you can see it in the way they carry themselves and the way they act during class and the way they do tests.
So in the past decade, it feels like racial tensions have gotten worse. Do you see it that way, and what do you attribute it to?
Absolutely. I mean, if you look at all the data, it finds that race relations were getting better until about 2013. That year, you had a majority of black, Hispanic, and white Americans saying race relations were good, and then you just see it nosedive. And 2013, you know, people like to blame, Republicans like to blame Obama, wasn't his fault. Democrats like to blame Trump. it was actually just technology. We all got social media and smartphones, and we had videos being promoted in the algorithm that were unrepresentative, and it created this impression that racism was on the rise when in fact it had been on the decline for decades.
Wow, this dude is saying data is showing that race relations were getting better. Things were improving. And now you got people looking at YouTube and Facebook and not looking at reality, but just looking at these random videos. And it's influencing them, and people saying racism, racism, racism.
I think the premise is fundamentally flawed. You claim that colorblindness was the goal of the civil rights movement, based upon Dr. King's I Have a Dream speech, content of character versus the color of skin. Bernice, Dr. King's daughter, points out that 4 years after giving that speech, actually, Dr. King also said this: a society that has done something special against the Negro for hundreds of years must now do something special for Negroes. He also said in 1968, it was about less than a week before he was assassinated, this country never stops to realize that they owe a people kept in slavery for 244 years. So rather than class, he did write about that earlier on. Right before his death, he made the argument for racial equality and racial reparations. And so your argument for colorblindness, I think, is something that the right has co-opted. And so many in the Black community believe that you are being used as a pawn by the right, and that you're a charlatan of sorts.
He's not a Republican.
So how do you...
He's never voted for a Republican.
You've said that you're a conservative.
No.
No, you did. You actually said that in a podcast that you did 2 weeks ago.
I said I was a conservative.
Yes, you did. So, but my question to you is, how do you respond to those critics?
As this woman's speaking to him and starting to say certain things about him, you could see it in his eyes. He's ready to go. He's ready. He knows it's time to go. Let's hear what he has to say.
Let's give him, let him answer.
The first thing I think it's very important. The quote that you just pointed out about doing something special for the Negro. That's from the book Why We Can't Wait that I just mentioned.
Yes.
A couple paragraphs later, he lays out exactly what that something special was, and it was the Bill of Rights for the Disadvantaged, a broad class-based policy.
But he also says you must include race.
No, he didn't. He says it's
Yes, he does.
Okay, well, everyone should go read the book Why We Can't Wait. Let's not get sidetracked by that.
Yeah.
I don't think I've been co-opted by anyone. I've only voted twice, both for Democrats. Although I'm an independent, I would vote for a Republican, probably a non-Trump Republican if they were compelling. I don't think there's any evidence I've been co-opted by anyone, and I think that that's an ad hominem tactic people use to not address really the important conversations we're having here. And I think it's better, and it would be better for everyone if we stuck to the topics rather than make it about me with no evidence that I've been co-opted.
I want to give you the opportunity to respond to
I appreciate
the criticism.
I appreciate it. There's no evidence that I've been co-opted by anyone. I have an independent podcast. I work for CNN as an analyst. I write for the Free Press. I'm independent in all of these endeavors, and no one is paying me to say what I'm saying.
No one is paying me to say what I'm saying. You can see how she backtracked when she was looking to get into an argument, and he just totally counters that in an expert manner. That must be tough to have a quote like she has cards, she's ready. She has ammunition. I mean, you can see it right now in her hand. He doesn't have any note cards. She's ready. She has ammunition. And the thing is, he doesn't have a note card, but he knows exactly the quote that she's referring to and exactly what Martin Luther King says 2 paragraphs later in reference to that quote. And that's what happens. A lot of people are taking stuff out of context, but this dude knows the context. He knows what Martin Luther King was alluding to. It wasn't race, it was class. But a lot of people with dark skin are in that lower class. And yes, I am sure it's because of their history that they were enslavement. And now it's carried over, and so they had a disadvantage.
Sure, I think she came into it with an agenda.
Of course. They do everything with an agenda.
Yeah. She came into it, it seems, really wanting to paint me as someone that has been co-opted by the right wing.
Yeah.
And I don't know how much research she had done into me. She claimed to have read my book twice, which is almost certainly not true.
Yeah,
because she was totally missummarizing.
When did the book come out?
February.
The odds are very low.
Very low, right? Because
very low.
Think of how many guests they have on their show,
how much
time
things
she
you have to
has.
do, family obligations. What is it, about 250 pages?
Something like that, yeah.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
But I mean, I might be wrong. I mean, do you have an audiobook available?
I do, yeah. I read it myself.
Maybe she did it at double speed.
Yeah.
Twice.
So I sounded like Ben Shapiro the whole time.
Of course, you're going to see race.
Yes.
The idea of being colorblind is ridiculous. But
Right.
treat everybody. They're just human beings.
Yeah.
Everybody's just individuals.
That's right.
That's what we should all hope for.
That's right. Yeah, there's been this common phrase, I don't see race, that's equated with colorblindness. And point of my book is I want to say, get rid of that. Of course we see race, certainly in America, in the West. You could argue about whether children really see race, but past a certain point, we see race. Point is not to pretend you don't see it. It's to say, you're a white guy, I'm a black and Hispanic guy. We notice that. We're not going to pretend it's not there, but whenever it matters, I'm going to try to treat you like an individual based on your personal qualities, and we're going to ask the government to do the same. Get race out of public policy. If you want to help disadvantaged people, do that on the basis of class.
I think that's it, y'all. Because going back again to high school, I mean, there were white people who were in the gifted program that you could tell they were probably raised by very prominent individuals. They had a good upbringing. And then you had white people who, you might refer to as trailer trash. They're same color skin. Their blood is probably exactly the same. But one group you can tell is not living in the rich area. You can tell that maybe their parents weren't together their whole life. You can tell maybe their dad beat them or had a drug problem. Whereas you see the same white person that's making straight A's and is talking well and is not doing drugs. I think that's it, man. I think it's class because there are white people that need help. There's Asian people that need help. There's black people that need help, Mexican, Spanish, whatever people that need help. There's a bunch of people that need help. But then if you go into the poor neighborhood and you just pull out the black people and then you reject the white people, that's racism. You go to the same neighborhood and maybe the white person has a worse upbringing.
You know how we're hateful, racist, misogynist white men?
Sure are.
I mean, that's what they tells us on the Twitters.
Sure.
I've been thinking and pondering. It got me wondering. Maybe we ain't.
What are you talking about? How so?
Well, we're hateful, right?
Yes, sir.
I mean, they tells us we hateful.
Are they right?
But who do we hate?
And I know there's someone.
But who?
Black people. Duh.
Yeah, but which one? I mean, can you think of a single one you hate?
Cosby. I hate Bill Cosby.
But was that before or after the,
Ah, dang it was after. I loved him before that. The Cosby Show was a breakthrough in African-American representation on screen.
Exactly!
Daggnabbit, shoot. White privilege. We're white, so we got the privilege we don't deserve, whether we like it or not.
Oh yeah, you're right. White privilege. Nothing we can do about that one.
There, see? We hateful. So you think twice before you go running your mouth again. We got white privilege.
I mean, it's pretty funny, but there's some truth in that. Guys, let me read this to you. Galatians 3, there is neither Jew nor Gentile, neither slave nor free, nor is there male or female, for you are all one in Christ Jesus. You are all one in Christ Jesus. Yes, there's injustice going on in the world. Yes, there's racist people out there. But what are you going to focus on, man? What are you going to give your time to? Are you going to let this injustice overwhelm your minds? Or are you going to get up and are you going to preach the gospel of Jesus? Because here's the thing. If a racist comes to the Lord and gets saved, they will not be a racist anymore. They may have tendencies, maybe they have some past hurts, but anybody that now gives their life to Jesus cannot be a racist anymore. You can try to do public policy, you can try and clean up the outside, but if you don't change the heart, that person's still going to be a racist. Acts 17, and he has made from one blood every nation of men to dwell on all the face of the earth, and has determined their pre-appointed times and the boundaries of their dwellings. God has made them from one blood, every nation of men. Man, the Bible is all about that. Jesus died for the whole world. And again, guys, this brother hit it on the head when he said the data was pointing to the fact that racial tensions were getting better until when? 2013, until more and more people began to get smartphones. More and more people began to be on social media. More and more, the devil tried to twist things around to get people to hate one another. And now the news is doing the same thing. Guys, you can jump on that bandwagon. And again, I'm telling you, there is injustice in the world. I am not trying to hide that right now. But my point is this: what's more powerful for injustice? What's more powerful for the people? To say stuff on the news station saying this and that and twisting things around? Come on, guys, you see these people that are shot by cops, and they pick the best picture they can for this individual, and they make him look so nice and harmless. But then in reality, this dude is a monster, and he's shooting at the police officers, and the police officers are trying to defend themselves. I mean, this is happening around the world. So it's wrong on both sides, all over. But here's the thing. Jesus Christ is the truth and the way and the life. Jesus is the one who sets the captives free. He's the one that can save a wretched sinner like me. Guys, if it weren't for the Lord, I probably would be racist. If it weren't for the Lord, I probably would be sexist. If it weren't for the Lord, I'd probably be in jail right now. But Jesus took me out of drugs. Jesus took me out of the dark hole I was in. And if Jesus can do it for me, he can do it for you too. God bless.